Welcome to the next video in the Patterns in Nature topic. This video will be addressing the dot point, compare the roles of the respiratory, circulatory and excretory systems. So this is quite a straightforward dot point. We just need to look at the three systems and be able to compare the similarities and differences. So let's have a look at the respiratory system. So the job of the respiratory system is to be responsible for the intake and exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between an organism and their environment. So the way that that's done is that air containing oxygen is breathed in through the mouth and the nose. It then travels to the lungs where gas exchange takes place in the alveoli, and oxygen then moves into the capillaries and carbon dioxide moves out of the capillaries into the alveoli, and then they're breathed out. Then we have the circulatory system. So the job of the circulatory system is to carry blood around the body. So without this transport system, oxygen and nutrients, including glucose, wouldn't be able to be delivered to the cells. So the blood travels from the heart through the arteries. So the arteries carry the blood away from the heart. So therefore, it's rich in oxygen and glucose. And when the arteries reach the cells, they become the capillaries, which are one cell thick vessels, which allow for the diffusion of oxygen and nutrients out into the cell, and then they also pick up the waste products. The capillaries then take the waste products to the veins, which return them to the heart, or they are removed from the body after they pass through a variety of different organs, such as the kidneys and the lungs. The last system is the excretory system. So the excretory system's role is to remove excess and unnecessary materials from the body fluids to help maintain internal chemical homeostasis and prevent damage to the body. So homeostasis simply means, to maintain a stable internal environment. So our kidneys are part of our excretory system, and their job is to filter our blood. So they get rid of excess salts, also excess water, which is removed from our body via our urine. Our lungs help to remove carbon dioxide, and our skin also helps to remove waste such as excess salts in our sweat. So to compare these three systems, each of them is made up of a number of different structures who have particular roles. Majority of them involve the blood in some kind of way. Obviously the circulatory system carries the blood around the body, but the respiratory system exchanges oxygen and carbon dioxide between the blood and the lungs, and the excretory system has the substances moving around the body in the blood to the particular organs of the excretory system. So each of the systems have their own particular roles, but they also do have some similarities in that they work together in order to maintain the overall functioning of particular organisms. So as we move through the next couple of videos, we'll be having a look at each of the different systems in a little bit more detail. At the moment, mostly just the respiratory and circulatory systems. However, in the Year 12 Maintaining a Balance topic, we look very, very heavily at the role of the kidney on maintaining homeostasis in humans as well as other organisms. So that was just a nice quick video for today, and that brings us to the end, and thank you for watching. Welcome to the next video in the Patterns in Nature topic. Today we'll be looking at the dot point, explain the relationship between the requirements of cells and the need for transport systems in multicellular organisms. So it's an explained dot point, so we need to look at cause and effect, and we've sort of been looking at how surface area to volume ratio, surface area of reactants, changes the way that reactions can take place, or increases the rate of diffusion or increases the rate of reaction. So what we're going to look at today is how each cell needs the requirements, or how each cell needs particular things in order to be able to function properly, and that in multicellular organisms, we need transport systems to be able to carry those nutrients or those requirements from where they are taken in to where they are needed. So before we do that, we're going to quickly look at the difference between unicellular and multicellular organisms. So unicellular organisms are obviously organisms that are only made up of one cell. And because they're only made up of one cell, their surface area to volume ratio is quite high. So this adequate surface area to volume ratio allows a couple of things to take place. It allows the process of cellular respiration to rely on simple diffusion to provide the essential requirements such as oxygen And as we know, glucose is also needed for cellular respiration. So those substances are able to move straight from the environment into the organism and then into the mitochondria for respiration to take place. Secondly, the removal of waste products such as carbon dioxide, urea, and other metabolic wastes is extremely easy. So their surface area to volume ratio allows the opposite of substances moving in to allow the removal of waste products. So as we know, if carbon dioxide stays in the blood for too long, it can turn the blood acidic. So it happens the same with unicellular organisms. So it can turn the internal environment of the unicellular organism acidic and therefore stop reactions from taking place efficiently. Okay, and lastly, the process of osmosis across the body's surface allows simple maintenance of sufficient water levels. Okay, so again, just like our little agar cubes that we used, diffusion and osmosis takes place quite easily. In particular, again, with our unicellular organism, water can move in and out quite easily. So multicellular organisms, on the other hand, is a little bit different. The total surface area to volume ratio is smaller as multicellular organisms are larger. So this means that cells towards the center of a multicellular organism are therefore further away from the surface, and the delivery of substances from the outside environment are less effective. So we can't just have oxygen diffuse across our skin and enter the cells that are towards, say, our stomach, our internal organs. Okay, it just doesn't happen. Same with water, and exactly the same with removal of waste. We can't just push them out through the surface of our skin. We need some kind of transport system to take them from where they're made to where they can be removed. Diffusion and osmosis are very slow, passive processes. Remember, they only occur with a concentration gradient that do not provide these cells with adequate resources. Okay, so again, we can have diffusion across the surface of our skin of water. Sorry, osmosis, that's right, as osmosis across the surface of our skin, but it's not going to be adequate enough to provide us with the water that we need to maintain all our cells with an adequate water level. So the greater nutrients and oxygen are required for larger organisms, such as complex animals, to provide sufficient energy. These organisms also produce more waste and hence have a greater need for transport. So transport systems are therefore present within large multicellular organisms. So if we look back at our dot point that says explain why we need to have transport systems based on the need for the requirements to get to cells, this is pretty much it. Okay, so multicellular organisms are too large. They cannot have their substances move directly across the surface. Therefore, we need transport systems to carry the substances from where they enter the body to where they're needed, and also transport wastes from where they're produced to where they're removed. So in animals, these transport systems include the respiratory system, the circulatory system, and the excretory system. So in the next video, we'll be comparing these three systems and having a look at their main components and their function. And that brings us to the end of this video. So thank you for watching.